We Are Already Living in the End of Times is the fourth full length from Finnish atmospheric extreme psychedelic doom metal band Astral Sleep. Now that number of qualifiers starts to add up here only because they have a very varietal style which reflects both psychedelic doom metal traits, um, which range from extreme metal, sludge, and doom, and on this record, they're tending towards something which I would describe as a mix of psychedelic doom and melodic death doom. And I emphasize melodic because these are deeper set, sort of subtle melodies that show up within a sort of death metal style that is slow and not so much laborious, but certainly droning in a hymnal way. Uh, so these guys, I've reviewed their last album. It was a really interesting release because it sort of summed the best points of their career up to that point, brought something new with that, and it also had a board game that came with a vinyl. It was kind of a cool thing to get. It was an expensive import, but it was still pretty cool. And it sort of made me a bigger fan of the band than I had been. Now, these guys have been around for a while, and they have a lot of records. I would say don't just focus on the full lengths if you do decide to pick through their discography, because while those are all watermarks that are important, some of their EPs have signaled a change in style that is impressive in a lot of ways, especially as they move towards their sort of psychedelic doom metal side later on. So this record, its themes center around the apocalypse and the way people see apocalypse, the apocalypse and apocalyptic times and the Anthropocene in general. It really considers all angles of the world coming to an end. And for me, this amounts to finding more people able to come to terms with death as a reality, and finding less fear in that, and finding themselves beyond this instinctive death drive. So that was sort of my takeaway from the general subject matter. But, well, why don't we listen to a song so that I'll shut up about that for a second? So the experience of listening to this record, really, there's two 9+ minute extended pieces that introduce and close the record, and then there are several about 4.5 to 5 minute songs, closer to 6 minute depending, songs in the middle. And all of these have a similar sort of feeling, pacing, and really depend upon various nuances and sort of underpinned ideas that bring melody and variety to the performances. I think that the mood is so heavy and consistent throughout this album that it conveys what I describe as spiritual malaise, of a sort of a sickened feeling that is distraught and carries through the full listen. I think that this is a very strong Finnish trait for a doom metal record, and also speaks to what the album is trying to convey. More importantly, I think that I enjoy records that are involved in terms of nuance because it lends itself well to repeat listening, to immersion, and um, really getting the sense of what this artist has to convey through participation, for listening, listening closer, and getting in there with the lyrics to sort of figure out what they're saying. So if you like to be that involved in something like an extreme doom metal record and sort of emotionally attached to it in some way, then there's a lot here to pick apart, and there's uh, a lot of they've learned a few things over the years. This is a sort of ambitious band in many ways still. So the one big note is that I think the vocalist's elaborate style is definitely unhinged at points and continually interesting throughout the record, and it tends to be the sort of the needle as it flits in terms of interest. So see if that lines up with what you think in some preview tracks, what you enjoy, and take it from there for your own taste, because it is sort of an idiosyncratic sound and a unique band. So for me, that's a high recommendation. It's just kind of the sort of record that's going to last per my interest, and you can read a lot more details of what I thought in the review, and listen to the album now. I do not care.